Welcome in, everybody, to our first session of our Fall 2025 Dream Job webinar series. I'm Danny Rubin, the founder of Rubin. We are an educational curriculum provider based in Virginia, working with schools around the country, helping students with their employability skills. Teachers on the webinar, raise your hand if you've ever received an email from a student or an adult, and the email looked like a text message, not an email. That's one of the skills we work on, helping students be professional and a good communicator to go after opportunities that they want. And one of those opportunities would be to work in the world of high tech, the world of social media, the world of the future in many ways. And that is today with special guest Freddie Kaiser from Meta. Freddie, thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your day. I know you've got a million things going on, and the students are super excited to hear from you, and we'll bring you in just a moment. Before we do, but we still have people coming in the chat. Trisha Brown from Monroe, Georgia, work-based learning, FBLA, shout out FBLA. We will, and those who are asking about the recording, we will put an email out on Wednesday with the recording, and it'll also be on our YouTube channel. So before we dive into today's conversation, I want to share some information with you about these webinars so you can take full advantage of them after today. We have, over the last 3+ years, we have interviewed close to 100 people across all different fields. And I want to share with you a link in the chat, a couple of links actually. One is to our YouTube channel for our webinars, and the other is to the webinars that we also post on our company website. It's the same information, but I recommend you subscribe to our YouTube channel, bookmark our website, so you can see whenever we add new interviews to our library. And you can also explore our website, and you'll see that we have a product that extends out beyond these webinars called Aspire. And that's where we pluck out the best moments from these interviews and attach discussion questions, so it's ready-made for the classroom. So feel free to look through our website, check out Rubin Aspire, and see how we extend these webinars to make it more classroom friendly after the initial conversation. All right, so that's the side notes for today. Let's jump into our conversation. Freddie, again, thank you for being open to talking today. I think when we say out there to the country, we're talking with someone from Meta, I think that gets a lot of ears up. A lot of people know a little bit about Meta, probably don't know a whole lot. And you work in generative AI. I'll let you start by introducing yourself, your brief background, and how you sort of landed where you are, and a little bit about the work you do, just a quick bio, and then we'll start to explore your day to day.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Super excited to be speaking to everybody about this. I have been at Meta for 3.5 years. I do not have a background in software engineering, and so I hope that one of the things that comes across is that at a huge global company like Meta, like there are hundreds, probably thousands of different roles that you could do, and it's just a matter of like learning what's out there. I certainly wouldn't have thought of Meta as a place that I would end up working when I was in high school. So how I got here was I actually started out studying international relations, politics, all of that. I went to DC. I thought I would work for government in the public sector. Um, and just by chance, I tried a few different things in grad school. I did a bunch of internships. I really fell in love with tech and tech investments. So I actually ended up getting my first job out of grad school was at a venture capital firm. So we did investing in different tech startups, and I loved that. I loved the pace of tech. And then a few years later, I was looking at other folks who I had studied with in grad school. I really wanted to continue to work in tech. I had moved, so I wasn't able to keep the job that I had at this venture capital firm. And I basically looked at who were the folks who I admired, who I had studied with in grad school and mentors, where were they working? And I just sort of went through the Rolodex and saw like, where would they recommend? And actually, one of the people who I knew well in grad school, I actually had an internship where I was the teaching assistant to former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright,
Oh,
and yeah, so not at all related to tech, really. It was
still
national
high level.
security policy. Yeah. But one of the other folks who had held this job, who had worked for the secretary, who I knew I just saw was working at Meta. So really, it was opportunistic, and I was just curious, and I wanted to know what are people doing who had the same background as me, in international relations, who had moved over to tech. And she was actually the one who said, have you considered global operations? That's where I work at big tech. And I said, no, what is that? And that was, 4 years ago, and I really
Okay.
had no idea what the opportunities were. But basically, that was it. I had, a background that was where I knew enough about this to sort of get a foot in the door, but really it was through that connection, through school connections in the peripheries that really helped even make me aware of what the opportunities were and what ultimately got me here to Meta.
Well, it is a lot, so much about relationships and building a strong network, and we've talked about that in past conversations. And I want to start to understand the work of Meta high level. I see some hands up in the chat, so this is your opportunity. Everybody can now go to the Q&A along the bottom of Zoom, and I want you to post your questions there. Do not post them in the chat. Post them in the Q&A. Put your name and your school. We can give you credit for asking your question, and I'll start to pick questions out as we go. So, Freddie, let me start by sharing the screen. We're looking at the AI subsection of the Meta website, and this is sort of public facing, what they want the public to know about Meta. So, give us a flavor of like what's going on at Meta with respect to AI. What's some of the work they're doing that they're proud to share, and then we'll discuss the role you play in helping to operate and manage that work.
Yeah. Yeah, happy to. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with like Chat GPT. Maybe you're even familiar with Meta's version of that, Meta AI. So we do a lot of different things with AI. And here's a flavor. So number one, we build foundational models, like basically the models that can do all of this, that can generate answers for you when you ask questions. Our foundational model is called Llama, and we release different versions of Llama all the time that are optimized for different use cases. But so that's the first thing we do. Just like Anthropic, OpenAI, like we also have our foundational models that we that's the first thing in Gen AI. The second thing is we actually find ways to incorporate AI into our product. So you've probably seen in like the Facebook app, in the search bar, and in all sorts of different ways, we incorporate Gen AI into our products to make them better, more helpful, safer. There is a photo of our Ray-Ban
Right, the
glasses.
glasses, right? The
Exactly.
Oakleys
So
or the Ray-Bans, yeah.
yep. So and very broadly, you guys probably know Meta owns different apps and companies like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and throughout all of these apps, we are finding ways to integrate AI to make the experience better for users.
And let's just define the term. When you say Gen AI, what does that mean? What is generative AI? And I think we have some definitions here. Let's just set the table for students about what we're talking about today so they know. And I see people's questions coming in, so we'll feed those in a moment.
Sure. Yeah. So let me share one screen really quickly. Just a second.
Yeah, sure.
So at a high level, when we think of AI, so this is, there we go, is this, let me zoom in here. Can you
Try
guys
to
see this?
widen your screen a bit. It's
All right,
sort of
let me do this. There we go. Is that
yeah,
better?
perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. So at a high level, there's AI, which is basically like just getting computers to do things that seem like human intelligence that we would otherwise like think we would need a human to do. There's machine learning. That's sort of the next step of using the information that computers can give us to make predictions. So a really easy example of like traditional machine learning is like how you get your recommendations on Instagram, right? Like we see you watched a video with dogs and we use ML to say like, hey, if this person is looking at these videos of dogs, they will likely also want to watch these videos of other dogs which are similar. So that's machine learning. And then Gen AI is a new type of AI, and the thing that differentiates Gen AI is it's actually creating new, unique content based on a user's inputs. So at a high level, like a Gen AI model is trained on a lot of data. And when it gives you an answer, it's basically predicting based on everything that it's learned, it's predicting the right answer and the next word or token in what it gives you. And it can generate new content that way. That's sort of what differentiates Gen AI from all these other kinds of AI that we've known about in years past. And Gen AI generally, like, it can do pretty much what like your average person can do if you're prompting it in the right way. And what we're working on right now is taking it, like we call it, pushing the frontiers of our model's capabilities. So we are training it to do increasingly sophisticated things and to do, to go into, new knowledge fields that are more and more difficult, to generate more complex and difficult answers. So it can probably do any level of like high school homework, but what about, college, like graduate level homework in STEM fields, PhD level homework, that sort of stuff is what we're working on.
Okay. And let's talk about your role because you're not coding things out, you're doing operations. What does operations mean? What kind of work are you doing? What are some of your tasks?
Yeah. So broadly, like global operations it's sort of an umbrella term for like a lot of business activities and processes that you do at a very large scale, in our case, a global scale. And that's kind of a lot of mumbo jumbo. So, like, very tactically, like at Meta, part of global operations is, for example, we have a team of, or like removing harmful content from our platforms. That happens every day across the world in every country at scale. That's part of global operations. So we keep like the community safer. We do that through technology, and we also do it through humans, right? Sometimes when you report something, if it is, violent or terribly harmful content, we have, there are people who are on call to help, who remove this, who escalate it. If there's an election, for example, there's a lot of like, we have people on standby. If a celebrity gets locked out of their account, Kim Kardashian can't access her Instagram account, or people of that level, like we have a team for that. We help with data collection. That's what my team does. But very broadly, like there's a huge sort of work behind the scene that goes on to like keep the platform safe, and most of that happens in global operations. Um, yeah.
So much outside of the technology. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So most of the people who work in global operations, obviously, there's a lot of software engineers. There's a ton of people with business backgrounds who've gone to business school, like business strategy. We have lawyers. We have, finance folks. We have a huge, this obviously costs a lot of money. If you're employing hundreds of thousands of people across the world who speak all these different languages. We have people who manage the budget, who work in finance. There's just such a wide array of roles in global ops. And my team specifically, so I work on a team, it's called product data operations. And so we do all sorts of, we get the data that our product teams need at scale. So for example, data collection. So if you're wearing like an Oculus device or the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, to make those work, like beforehand, we need to actually have thousands of people wear them, track their eye movements to make sure that like all of these are working properly, that you can focus on the images. That's one thing my team does. The other thing specifically on Gen AI, here's another example of like, to get Gen AI models to work well, you need humans to train them. And sometimes yeah. And so as you can imagine, we're trying to really advance our models and you need ever more expert people to train them. So we work with experts across all fields to help teach our models how to get better at, math, how to interpret medical images. So the models can help like doctors, but you need doctors to train the models to do that first. So that's specifically what my team is focused on.
It's fascinating to me that the scale at which you're working, the whole world. I mean, you're doing work that would impact people all in all different countries, and you have to think about their different languages and their cultures and where everything lands. It's so much to think about at a high level. Let me get to a few of our questions here. First of all, Michael from Tharptown High School, Alabama asked, do you have to be in an office? Are you a remote employee? How often do you interact with your team? What is that dynamic like?
Yeah, good question. I would say most folks are hybrid, so they spend a few days in the office, a few days remote. I am mostly remote, but I travel about once a month. And I'll say this, I've worked both fully in office, I've worked fully remote, and I would say if there's not a degree of in office, it's much, much harder to get things done. There's just something about being in person that builds trust, and that makes things easier. So I would say like, it's great to have a few days at home, but there's a lot of value in being in person with your team and with different teams, if especially on like work that requires a lot of collaboration. And that's something we've noticed at Meta too. Like when you are just in intense sprints, it really helps when you're with people. So
You know, Let me just branch off of that for a second because we talk a lot in our webinars. And if you're new, by the way, raise your hand if this is your first time in one of the Ruben Dream Job webinars. Show a hand if you're first time here. One thing we do we have a lot of new people. So we talk not just about the job, but about the employability skills or the communication skills that make you effective in your job. So now you are working sometimes remote, sometimes in office. How important is it that you are a good writer? You're a good communicator. You're clear with your instruction with people. How often are you having to not just think about technical projects, but also about just the day to day, the words you're using to make sure everyone understands the task? How
yeah.
about that for you?
I can say this like very unequivocally. There is nothing more important in any job at Meta or beyond. Truly, this is my belief, than being a good and clear communicator.
Mm.
And I would say that that is probably what set me apart when I was transitioning from like when I was working in, the international relations field and like national security stuff in DC and moving to here. Like what I knew how to do and knew how to do well was brief senior leaders and decision makers on important things. The more you can do that, the more successful you will be, and it will amplify every other skill that you have.
Wow.
And if you cannot do that, you can be the most talented technical person in the world. There will be a ceiling to what you can do, and the upper bound is how clear you can communicate and how well you can influence people to get at the outcomes that you want.
Students, that's what you call a mic drop. She
Yeah.
works for Meta. She's telling you that technical skills are not the whole equation, that it's the communication. Okay, what I do, and for students who are new to us, before I started the company, I was a TV reporter. So I would interview people, and I'm always listening for interesting angles to the conversation. And I ask, does anybody know if anybody's been here before, they know I like to do it starts with an FO. Who knows what I like to do in here? Anybody know the word I'm about to say? Put it in the chat if you know. I ask follow-up questions. So you said that in your previous role in DC, you were writing briefs for senior executives, senior leaders. What makes a great brief? What makes it an effective piece of communication? How did you do it and do it well?
Um, I would say there are a few principles that like work across the board. The number one is bluff, bottom line up front. Like
Ah,
don't bury the lead. If your point is like we have to make a decision on X and there are three options and I recommend number three, your first line is, we recommend doing X because Y. Like that's the first sentence. Like, and then you go into the rationale. But that's the very first thing is think about, I have a meeting. What do I want the outcome of this meeting to be? Or, I'm getting this group of people together. Ultimately, what do I need from them at the end of this? And, or even state that at the top of a meeting, say, we are getting together and we need to leave with a decision on X. My recommendation is Y. So I think that that's the first thing, bottom line up front. Number two is simplify everything. If you are like, typically, I like my communications and the people I want decisions from do not know the work to the same detail that I do. They are, and they're context switching, right? And so when you're moving from project to project, it's very difficult to orient yourself. So the best thing you can do is read through something and say, would someone who is totally new to this work, maybe who doesn't even work at Meta, understand the gist of what I'm trying to say? And understand the risks or whatever I'm trying to pose. If you can't simplify something, you probably don't understand it that well. So the most effective people, the smartest people are people who can really distill something to like the core issues, and leave sort of
Fantastic.
no ambiguity.
Well, this is just fantastic advice because it speaks to working in high tech, but also what you said, being able to switch your mind and say, would this person I'm about to meet with understand this information? And that's what we call soft skills. Those relationship skills, which from a bigger picture with the rise of AI, these relationship skills are going to matter just as much. The ability to condense information down, think about all parties, make sure everybody's well understood. Those skills have a premium and will increase in value over time. So I love how you broke that down. I think that's so important. Let me get back to some of the questions from the audience. Melissa Goodall from Miami Valley Career and Technical Center. She said, we've coded high school project with Llama as the back end. Does Meta offer any sort of mentorship programs? Is there any way students can interact with Meta to learn these skills better? I don't know if it's just straight up internship, but just ways for students to engage with these products. Are you aware of anything like that?
I don't know specifically for high school students. I know we have huge internship programs at various colleges, so I know about that for sure. So but I would just say like keep experimenting and like using the products, and like there are so many, like workshops out there for like vibe coding and like everything else. So just keep doing what you're doing, and then I would say like keep your eyes out for the internship opportunities, because we have thousands of interns every summer, yeah, from
Okay.
colleges and graduate schools just across the board and in all different disciplines.
Should they just like if you just search like Meta and internships, is there like a sort of a program you would apply to, or sort of like a space where students can learn more information? We can dig up that URL, but that would be
Yeah,
helpful for this crowd to know is how they would explore internships
yeah.
at Meta. Okay, we'll send that along afterwards. More great questions. Let's talk about the technical piece and the communication piece. Question from Audrey, Rappahannock Community College in Virginia. Well, let's talk first about the communication. Are there any classes that you think students should focus on in school? Any public speaking classes or English language sort of composition classes? There's such a great demand today to learn how to put your thoughts in writing and have it make sense to somebody else. You can't just send a slangy text message to a client. It has to be organized and clean. So, are there classes you recommend students take in high school or college?
Yeah, I would say number one, like just take any opportunity for public speaking generally. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be a class, but just every time you do a presentation, I think that's a great opportunity to sort of gauge your like how comfortable am I speaking in front of a crowd? What can I and ask for feedback, right? Like I think that's the most important thing. If you like whether it's your professor or like your peers and say like was this clear? Did I, did I get my message across? What I really wanted to like everybody to leave the room with was X and Y. Is that what you left with? Like, or what do you think I should change, right? So just like put yourself out there every time you can in speaking, whether that's in school or in whatever, in other sort of situations. I would say classes that are the most helpful. To me, you're doing a lot of essay writing in college too, which is not exactly what you would be doing in a lot of, work environments after that. I think any class, it could be like a business class or policy classes. So like in the I was a teaching assistant in that for the secretary in that national security class, and we would write one-page policy briefs. Anything where you have to write like very short texts about topics where you're asking for a decision or making a recommendation, those are helpful. You're going to do a lot of essay writing anyway, but I think anything like over a page or two, like that's probably like you'll get that anyway. Like I wouldn't focus explicitly, like wouldn't over pivot on that, because most of the writing that I do, that a lot of people do in this job, is like very short, pithy one pagers, emails for decisions,
I
etc.
want to ask you about that. Students today might think, well, why do I even need to learn how to write because AI does it for me? Is there even any value anymore in writing things for myself? I have my own opinion about sort of general brain development and just understanding the written word. Now, you work in Gen AI and you're helping to spread and foster this technology all over the globe, but do you still believe that students should spend time learning how to write and organize information before they would use tools like that?
1,000%. And here's why, because putting things down on paper helps you clarify your own thinking about a topic. And no matter what you put through AI, like you will always want to do the critical thinking and like around even, is this the structure that I want? Is this whatever? And the outputs of AI are always going to be like only as good as these sort of inputs. So the more you're able to think critically and think about the tone and all of that, like AI will continue to get better and better. There will always be value to you being able to structure your own thoughts and be a critical thinker. And part of that is just writing it yourself. Um, and then you can definitely, like, I use AI to refine my writing all the time, but there is never a time when I'm asking, to write something for me and I'm not looking at it after. It's always a sort of back and forth. But I think just in terms of refining your own critical thinking, your ability to like think around corners, and like there's just no
Great.
substitute. And I think to like the real value of like AI is going to be able to do more and more in terms of like technical specializations like coding. Like we're already doing so much in like vibe coding. What's irreplaceable is like the human relationship aspect here, and that like person to person communication, your EQ, and like the a facet of that, like how to develop that and like sharpen that even more is also
I
like.
think that's so important for students to hear that we're not replacing the human brain and critical thinking. And the more you work on those skills when you're younger, the further you'll go when you're out there in the work world. It's not a substitute for thinking. And I think it's important that students hear that. We do have a lot of questions. I'm not getting to them all, of course, but question just about the Meta itself and the AI product that you've built. Michael at Harper Park Middle School in Leesburg, Virginia. What makes Meta AI a better product than ChatGPT or Claude or these other products that are in the market, Copilot, Gemini? Like does Meta AI have something unique about it that would make it a sort of better in certain use cases or better in all cases? What makes it special?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that sort of comes to mind is Meta AI is open source, which we believe is ultimately going to make like the progress on AI. It's going to accelerate progress on AI. It's going to make it safer. So I think that's one differentiator. In terms of sort of, I mean, there are so many use cases for AI, and there are going to be things that certain models are better or worse at, and they're always evolving. So I don't think I can give a definitive answer of like, what across the board, but I will say like all of these models are constantly improving. And I think what we are anchoring on is just really making, not only the best models in the world, but also like having them just take our products to the next level and making those the most useful for our users, whether that's the Meta Ray-Bans, whether that's within Instagram, Facebook. But yeah, I also think like it is very cool to sort of compare models and see which are best at what, right? And each sort of has their competitive advantages. So
Yeah, I think we're everybody's still figuring out what they use each one for. They've all hit the market the last year, it seems. It's still very new for everyone, the consumers and the companies. Thank you for that. And a question from, I hope I'm saying this name right, Meliaj Herrera. What do you envision the future at Meta with AI? There's all this concern that, oh, it's going to take away everybody's job. Will it take away some jobs, create new jobs? What do you think? How do you think the world will shake out or as in the next several years with this kind of technology? What's your take?
oh my gosh.
Big question, I know, but
Yeah.
what do you feel? Do you think it's going to create jobs we don't even know about yet, and it won't be
Yeah.
this wipeout of everybody's occupation, or things will change?
Yeah. I think, look, first of all, I think there is just such a diversity of opinion, even on like meta, like on from AI experts across the board, like in ethics, and like there is just a range of opinions. Like there's no sort of consensus on that. I would say like we're just sort of in the foothills still of even like knowing what AI can do. I think we've only just scratched the surface. I think there are going to be huge changes that we don't even have, insights into yet how they will impact everything. I'll also say that I think in the grand arc of history, like there have been similar sort of transformations where like entire, swaths of jobs have been changed drastically and new jobs are created. And I think what I have a strong hypothesis for is what I've said again is that your ability to communicate, to manage relationships, to manage people are going to become more and more important than ever before. Your in-person skills, your soft skills, your critical thinking is going to be more and more important because AI is going to be able to do a lot of coding. What AI can't do right now is like look at a room full of people. If you're like building a team and saying like, I know the strengths of my team. I know the interpersonal dynamics to get us to our goal the fastest. I want to put this person on this. That's just one like very concrete example. But I honestly think the best thing you can do is like just really hone in on your interpersonal, your communication skills, your in-person skills.
I mean, you're saying what I've been saying too, and why our company even exists, is we teach these skills on the sort of the backside of innovation are the people skills. Quick poll with the teachers here, show of hands. One of our company goals is to, in our Emerge employability curriculum, we have several videos now of how to shake a hand, how to sit at a meal for business, how to sit in an interview. We want to do more videos showing all kinds of little in-between moments of how you act in a group, on a team, at an interview. Show of hands if you'd like to have more videos so students can model behavior, because that's a place we want to push into more and more as AI, sort of the AI revolution takes place. I hear what you're saying, Freddie. Like these other skills are going to be just as important. So thank you for weighing in, teachers, with your hands up. We're just about out of time. I would say, Freddie, I'll give you kind of the last word. You've had an interesting career path. You probably didn't think you'd be in the seat you're in, 5, 6 years ago. It's sort of, but you built a great network, and you sort of one thing led to the next. For students who are interested in just working in sort of tech in general, why is it a worthy industry to work in? Why are you proud to do the work you do?
Um, I am proud to do the work I do, and I love where I work. I think number one, the caliber of people and the talent and the creativity that you can unleash in tech in big tech and tech startups is just what I love about it. And fundamentally, I think all sort of there you're fundamentally like at Meta, we're like driving towards more connection, more human connection. So that I think that mission is just aligns with what I like. And then finally the reach. You are reaching, especially in tech, it's always hundreds of thousands, if not
Massive.
millions or billions of people, right? Like who are Meta's customers? Like at least half the world, probably
It's
more.
it's humbling
Mhm.
to be on the button of work that impacts so many people. I can only imagine what you and your team are doing. Thank you for that. I wanted to share, and I put it and it flew up the chat a little bit. Um, we have many more fantastic webinar sessions to come this fall. If you click the link I shared, you'll see the next ones, and you can register for any. In 2 weeks' time, we'll talk to a banker, a commercial banker, and then an interior designer, and all kinds of interesting people throughout the fall. So please register for our sessions, bookmark our YouTube channel, bookmark our website so you can know about every future conversation that we have. Again, Freddie, thank you so much. I thought this was enlightening on a lot of levels. I hope the students were listening. Teachers, hands up. Were your students listening to everything she said about the work she does and the massive importance of soft skills? You're hearing it from her at Meta. What more do you need to know? That's it. Top of the game. So, Freddie, thank you so much. Ava, thank you for your sign language support. I look forward to seeing all of you in 2 weeks for the commercial banker conversation. Thank you to everybody in the chat with your comments. We love having you. And please tell your friends, tell teachers at other schools, spread the word, fill up this room every time. It makes it so much more fun with a big crowd. So thank you all and have a great rest of your day.